welcome to Ringsiders. I'm Jamie, as always, joined by Callum and his little moustache. Hello, Callum. Your little moustache. We have a very special guest today. He's NXT UK. How are you today? Yeah.
Hello, how are you? Very well.
We're rocking and rolling, as we always do.
So
yeah,
I can hear you, mate. I can hear you. It's a little bit quiet, but I can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah. So as we were saying pre-record, you're in the UK at the moment, and have you been here? Have you been in the UK throughout lockdown? Is this where you've been based?
Not really. I've been I was in Spain I was in the UK before lockdown, one day before lockdown in Spain. Then I traveled back to Madrid after a show, and that's where I did the first lockdown, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe a month before this, I went to Germany to train there in WXW and had a good time there and just went back here to London.
Yeah. So how's it been like during lockdown then? Have you been able to keep training at all, or have you not been able to do much?
I mean, I've always been trying to, right?
Yeah.
Trying to do as much as I could. Obviously, you're not able to wrestle anyone, so that's a very bad thing for wrestlers. But yeah, I just tried to study stuff and watch tapes, do body weight when I didn't have a gym. Now I have a gym, so it's pretty much everything I need. So
yeah. Well,
and who you been studying then? I mean, who are guys you are inspired by? Who do you look at and study to learn from?
So I've always loved Bret Hart. In my opinion, he's one of the best of all time. And I used this time to kind of watch back everything he did, Mr. Perfect in SummerSlam, British Bulldog, his matches with Owen, just stuff I watched in the past and didn't really appreciate as much as I could right now. And then I also studied Nigel McGuinness in his time in ROH. Again, one thing that I studied, right? One thing that I studied back in the day, and now I appreciate it even more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Bret Hart. That match with Mr. Perfect, SummerSlam 91's one of my all-time favourite pay-per-views. And for that match alone, him and Mr. Perfect, there's the match of King of the Ring 1993 as well. Yeah, I mean, what is it about Bret then? I mean, I actually met Bret Hart a few years ago, and he's such a sweet guy. So what is it? Because obviously you're quite a high flyer as well. So you're a big fan of the technical aspect as well with Bret and Mr. Perfect.
So the first book I ever read about wrestling was the Bret book, which quite honestly ruined everything for me because in my opinion it's one of the best. So it could never be that good. But yeah, so that's why I started watching him and stuff, just reading the book. When he talks about Dynamite, for example, just all right, I need to watch this. I need to watch who this guy is, and then I watch him versus Tiger Mask, and kind of everything clicks, right? So that's why I started watching Bret, and obviously he's one of the best. So you just had to watch him.
I totally agree, man. Yes, I've got that book. It's a big book as well, isn't it? It's not a tiny book. It's about 500 plus pages, but I remember when I got it, I must have read it in about 2 or 3 days. I just couldn't put it down. I'm totally with you. For me, Bret Hart he's up there as one of the greatest ever. But speaking about your career, I know Callum will be really excited to talk to you about this. You wrestled in Chikara, am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, how was that? Callum's a huge Chikara guy. How was that? How did that come about?
So that was one of my first matches here in the UK, which it was against British Strong Style right when they were starting with NXT UK and everything. So it was pretty good time frame for us, right? For me, for Carlos, and for Sayas. And we were contacted because we were from White Wolf Wrestling, which is a company in Madrid. So they wanted us to represent White Wolf, and wow, it was it was surreal. It was one of these weekends I just couldn't believe, right? And yeah, my first time in Wolverhampton as well. I didn't even know that place existed. and then it became such a big part of my career. So it's wild.
That's cool though. Like you've wrestled in Chikara, you've wrestled British Strong Style. I'm guessing that was still quite relatively early on in your career as well.
Kind of. I mean, I'm very weird for that because like my debut was in 2012, but until 2018, I may have like, I don't know, 60 matches, so it's not, it's just because I'm from Spain, so there's not much wrestling there. Everything was way slower for me. So even though like time-wise, I'm very old at that point in my career, I didn't have a clue what was going on. So.
Well, to be honest, even as a fan, I hadn't heard of you up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I believe, and then it was like overnight, everybody was just talking about A-Kid, and I think it was to do with, like, especially on Reddit. I don't know if you go on Squared Circle, but every post was like highlights of your matches, and I think some of them were, I believe one of them was Will Ospreay.
Right.
And it was, people were just raving about this match he had with Ospreay, and I was just like, yeah, okay, we'll check this guy out. And then since then, it's just been like, you've been one of the guys from Europe, especially like you said, where Spain, where you don't get too many wrestlers coming from or promotions. You've kind of stood out. And what do you credit that to? Like you said, you don't get much wrestling in Spain. You don't really get many promotions. How do you feel like you've made yourself stand out?
So basically, it was so the first time an import came to White Wolf to wrestle, it was Ricochet, and I was the guy picked to do that. It was so crazy because it was at a point in my career where I kind of decided to quit, like decided to stop wrestling because, as we were talking, like there's no wrestling in Spain. There's no way I can do this as a lifetime. I have to study. I have to do something else. And that match changed it all. Like after that match, Carlos Romo obviously talked to me and went like, "All right, you have to get out of this place. You have to like try to wrestle because you just proved that you can do it. You can if you can hang with Ricochet, you can wrestle anyone." And I was like, all right, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know how to start doing this. And here, like, I've experience with like music and stuff, so I can help you with that. And I was like, all right, but then come with me, so like we can use this together. We can use this like for both of us. And that's how it started. Like it was just us traveling. Like we literally traveled to shows just to help out. We didn't even wrestle. Just went there, tried to like watch wrestling from the inside and understand how the scene worked, right? And then slowly we were getting like bigger matches, and I had like this match against Zack Sabre Jr. in White Wolf, and in my opinion, that's what made me like the kind of had this status of that I have to do, right? Obviously because of the reviews it had.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Like you got the opportunity to wrestle like the Zack Sabre Jr. and you hung with Ricochet, because if you're from Spain where you don't get many promotions, you have to make the most of every chance you get. And it sounds like you just completely took the ball and ran with it. So where do you feel like it went after that? Like, and like I said, as a fan, it was almost like it was overnight. How did it feel to you to like have all this attention on you, considering, before that, it was just, like you said, you'd had 60 matches in maybe like 6 years or so. What was it like to then be getting all this attention?
So the first match with Ricochet, I didn't even notice because I didn't have any social media back then.
Right.
Like I am this I'm this very weird guy that doesn't like social media and stuff like that. So obviously that changed, right, because of my work now. But at that time, I didn't realize. I didn't realize how big that was and how much of an impact it made. So it was Carlos telling me like, look at these tweets everyone's talking about. Like, yeah, but all right, it's just tweets, right? And then I discovered the importance of like social media and the power it may have, right? Like for good or for bad, but it's really, really important. With Saber, it was I was like in Twitter and Instagram, everything, and it just blew my mind. Like when Meltzer rated the match, that was like, all right, that's me done with with Twitter. Like I
It was
couldn't.
5-star match, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Jamie, I think this might be the first interview we've done where we're speaking to someone with a 5-star match.
Good. I mean, that must have been, I mean, how was that for you as well? Obviously, wrestling Zach. That must have been one hell of a learning curve for you as well, to be in there with him.
So like that was my first match as a technical guy, which is very weird because I had been doing like MMA and grappling like for 3 years back then, but I never saw that in a ring. Like I was always like this high flyer guy, and Saber just told me, all right, I know what you can do because I did a seminar with him. Let's just do this. Let's just enjoy. Let's just feel each other and like wrestle like this. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I love that style. I really wish I can do it. And it just turned out to be like what I am today, right? Like I just discovered myself in that match, which is, I think it's the most important thing for a wrestler, just knowing who you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've had this discussion a few times with wrestlers where it says like for the first few years you'll kind of pretend to be somebody, but then when you realize who you are, it all just falls into place, and that's when you really start picking up pace and getting the bigger matches and doing your best work as well. Because we were just talking to Isaiah Velasquez, who he was saying it's all about finding yourself and not being fake. And the most important thing you can do as a wrestler is be genuine. And do you feel like you're at that point now where you are who you're meant to be in wrestling?
Yeah, definitely. Like just because of how much I enjoy doing what I do right now, like when I did those matches, I wasn't really paying attention to them, like the environment, the match, like the opponent. I wasn't able to enjoy that, right? I was too focused on like, wow, what should I do? What should I... Right now, I'm not like that. I'm just more like just enjoying, like feeling the match and try, like obviously trying to do the best performance I can, but also trying to enjoy my work because that's what I chose to do, right? That's why I chose to be a wrestler, to enjoy what I do.
Well, yeah. Well, if you can enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't seem like work, does it? Like
Yeah.
you don't want it to get to the point where you resent doing it. But I mean, when you signed with NXT, when you started getting the matches with NXT UK, was that a point where you thought like, wow, I've made it? You know, I've done it. I've come from Spain, where there's basically no wrestling, and I've made it to WWE. What was that like?
I mean, it was very big, but not at the first moment, right? Like it was big, for example, when my grandmother, who never really watched any wrestling I did, started talking to me about that. Like I was like, oh, I saw this. Like your aunt showed me on Facebook this, and I was like, wow, all right. Is that the first
That's
time you see
cool.
me wrestling?
Yeah.
So it was kind of surreal because everyone, like obviously everyone knows what WWE is, but not everyone knows what the indies are, right? So that's when I realized how big of a deal it was. Like, all right, now I am in the biggest company in the world, and I am the first one to do that for coming from Spain. So that's very big.
Yeah, the first ever Spanish superstar in WWE. I mean, that's an achievement in itself. And I'm pretty sure, Jamie, you were at the NXT UK tapings in Hull, weren't you?
Yes.
Yes. I believe
Of course.
you had a match, right?
I was sat next to you. Yes, I was there.
You all care or ran sometimes. Like you all blend into one. But yeah, I mean, you were at NXT UK Hull when we came, and we were blown away by you then. Like I think it's cool that you haven't really lost your style as well. Like a lot of people when they come from the indies to WWE, they kind of like not like forget who they are, but the style changes a bit. And I feel like with you, you've managed to hold on to what brought you to WWE in the first place, that high flying style, mixed with a bit of technical and stuff. So do you feel like that as well? Like you've managed to keep who you are now you're in WWE?
Yeah, like obviously when I got in, it was like a lot of pressure because, as you said, like it is a different environment, so you have to think, you have to go like, all right, maybe what I've been doing doesn't really work right now. And quite honestly, that was the case. Like, it didn't really work at that time. So, but again, like, I have to be myself. I have to wrestle like I wrestle because that's what got me to WWE. And right now, I feel like I'm the most myself I could ever be. Like, being in WWE just made me be who I am, and like all the coaches just giving me feedback about my style and that they wanted to see that, they wanted to see more of that. I was like, yeah, I can do that. I can be more technical. I can be more high flyer. I can do that. And it was really like one of my uh, best memories in NXT was one day that I had like two matches in a row, like the same day, and I did like a full high flying match, and then I did like a full technical match,
That's
which was
cool.
like, all right, I can, yeah, I can get the best of both worlds. So it's really good.
What's it like being learning from the coaches at NXT UK? Because there's a wealth of talent there. And like, what's the biggest thing you've learned since you've been in WWE?
It's just great. I mean, you have to take into account that I have never been trained by anyone, like properly trained by anyone, because there's no one in Spain to train people, right? Like, yeah, we have no good wrestlers, or we had no good wrestlers. We have it now, but so yes, being able to like learn from William Regal, like Robbie Brooks, James Mason, Johnny Moss, Johnny Saint, it's like, wow,
All the Johnnies.
yeah, all the Johns. I've grown up watching these people. Like, I remember watching Johnny Moss's like classes that he uploaded on YouTube just to try to learn how to do the hip toss. And it was, I mean, until that point, I never learned how to properly do a hip toss before he taught me that. So it was like, yeah, it was great. And then obviously hearing like stories from Johnny Saint or like William Regal, and just them giving you feedback about your work, and like honestly trying to make you better, and just caring about your style. It's just the best experience you can ever have as a wrestler, right?
How valuable has the performance centre been to you as well? Obviously, with the London-based performance centre as well now, that must be so invaluable to you.
I feel like that's one of the best things about my time here in NXT. Quite honestly, like obviously, when I signed, I was able to quit my job as a teacher and be full-time pro wrestler, which was a very good thing for me. But just, yeah, just being able to properly learn how to wrestle, that's my biggest takeaway from this. Like, it's just the best. Like, I had never had that chance before, and there's not a better way to learn than being there in those four worlds.
Yeah. I mean, as well, 'cause obviously, have you had much dealing with Shawn Michaels as well? Because from here, he's quite hands-on with the UK brand, isn't he? Again, that must be something special to learn from Shawn Michaels as well.
Again, it is surreal. Like, it's just so the fact that people like him watches like my matches and then comment back about it, like they tell me what to do. It's just like, "Oh, I don't deserve this." Obviously, yeah, I'm gonna change that. It makes you know what I mean. It's just like one of the best minds in pro wrestling telling you what you should do and how you should do it.
As a fan, I lose my mind when Shawn Michaels likes one of my tweets. I can't imagine what it's like when he's giving you feedback on your match or saying you did something well. That would be crazy. But
and he's super nice. Like, he's always open to help people and make the product better, which means a lot, honestly.
he has got a great mind for it, hasn't he? Shawn Michaels is always understood the character work, and like I always feel like Shawn Michaels and his matches brought out the best character in people. Like Triple H, for example, one of my favorite feuds ever is Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, because Shawn Michaels is such a good babyface that you can't help but feel sorry for him, and I feel like he's one of the best sellers in the business. So, do you feel like you've picked up anything on like how to be a sympathetic babyface, for example? I imagine that's something Shawn Michaels would teach really well.
I feel like not only because, like, quite honestly, I never had any problem with that, because my role, like, since 2012, my role was the sympathetic babyface in White Wolf. Like, that's what I've done my whole life, right? But like I picked up a lot of stuff about selling, like stuff that I had never thought about before. You know, because again, like nobody taught me that. So you're like, wow, this is, yeah, it makes total sense. Let's just practice that. And there was a point in my, like, when I signed with NXT UK and I was still doing indies, there was a point when I thought that I never, like, I didn't know how to wrestle. Like, I didn't know how to wrestle anymore. Like, even just doing the simplest move, I had to think twice about it just because everything was like different right now, right? So just having that is amazing.
What's it look like going forwards for you then? I mean, you're in NXT UK now, and we're slowly coming out of lockdown. Wrestling's going to start again soon, and I've heard with NXT UK starting tapings again, hopefully soon. What's next on your list? I mean, obviously you want to be NXT UK champion. That's everybody's goal, you know, or even the tag team champion. But what do you want to do in between then? Like, what's the plan for A-Kid?
I just, like, I always say this, like, I'm not a person that sets goals for him. Like, I've never set a goal in my life. Like, I just wanted to be the best wrestler I could be, and that's it. Like, whatever I land, it's fine for me. But what I want to do in WWE, not only NXT, is just tell like good stories that people remember. Like we were talking, like I just watched Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid. Like if at some point in my life I can do something like that people still talk about today, that's that's probably one of the best things you can do as a performer, right? So that's probably my goal, just one of those big stories.
Yeah, that's something we've touched on in previous interviews. It's in fact the last interview we did. We were saying as a fan, it's not always the moves that you remember when you get older. It's the moments and how those moments made you feel. So like when you hear the Undertaker's gong on his entrance, you get goosebumps. Or like when Triple H returned in 2000, just hearing his music play after he comes back from injury, that was an amazing moment. Or the Hardys returning, you know, and every wrestler wants a great match, but you find that most wrestlers want that moment that people still talk about in 10 to 15 years. And like, sounds like that's what you want too. You want that moment.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the hardest thing to do as a performer. Like the Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair moment. That's yeah, everyone remembers that. Like it's just one of those moments in wrestling that's like, all right, this is it. This is what I love right here. Like this second is what I love about pro wrestling. I've never been able to do that. Like I don't think I've been able to do that yet. So being able to do that is probably my only objective right now.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, you're not setting goals or anything, but hopefully we're gonna see you in the future. Like, I'd like to see you mix it up with people in America stateside. You know, like NXT in America. Get some matches in there. That would be awesome because I think there's NXT UK has got a lot of good talent, and so there's. I hate calling it main NXT. It's not. It's the same, but it's the same brand. You know what I mean?
NXT America, yeah.
American NXT, yeah. But yeah, there's some people there that I could see you mixing up with, like Adam Cole, for example, or the Undisputed Era in general. I think that would be really cool. And I mean, like, that's got to be a slight goal of yours, even if you're not setting any. You want to get to NXT in America.
There are like two particular there are two matches that I would love to do. One of them is Daniel Bryan. Obviously, it's just like, yeah, like I just love his ROH run and then what he did in WWE WrestleMania 30. It's just like one of those dream matches, right? And then the other, which is a little bit more weird for most people, is Kyle O'Reilly. Like he was one of my favorite as an independent wrestler. Like his time in PWG, for me, it's one of the like best moments of independent wrestling ever. I would love to have a match with him.
Sleazy Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that run. It was so good. But yeah, was you a big PWG fan then?
Yeah. Like that's the only thing we watched it in Spain. Indie wise, like that's the only indie that existed for us for a few time. Then we like picked up on Chikara, stuff like that. obviously ROH afterwards, but I discovered the indies with PWG.
Oh, that's cool. So usually, like for me especially, I found Ring of Honor first, and I feel like because I'm 31, Ring of Honor was just starting. It was about 2002 when I first started watching it, and I feel like a lot of people first got into Ring of Honor. When they look outside of WWE, it's usually Ring of Honor they find, or it was anyway. But it's not so much the case nowadays. I think it's usually like GCW, for example, is doing incredible stuff. And with yourself, you found PWG.
Yeah, but just because so that's when I returned to wrestling, like 2012. So like PWG was very hot at that moment. And then obviously when I watched that and I watched those people, I went like, all right, where are the wrestling? Like then I saw ROH, and then I went like, all right, I need to watch all of this. I need to watch. Oh, Daniel Bryan was in ROH. CM Punk was in ROH. What is this? I need to watch this. And just like bought all the DVDs they had, like the best of Bryan Danielson, the best of CM Punk, and just watched the whole of them. I think that's my probably that or like 91 to 94 WWF. That's probably the two of my favorite times in wrestling by far.
Choice. Yeah. Two very different eras, but very good. Yeah. Like you said, with Ring of Honor around that time when you had shaven head Daniel Bryan just absolutely mauling people with elbows and, nearly killing people. That was an incredible run. If you could have like one fantasy dream match where you could pick any opponent from any era, would it be Daniel Bryan from that run in Ring of Honor?
Yeah, definitely.
That would be a good pick. Who would
or
win
like
that
Bret
match?
Hart, or Bret Hart, one of those. Definitely.
Would you win that match?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It would be just like one title match where I get featured and that's it. But yeah, I don't feel like I would deserve to win in that era.
Oh, modest and humble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's great seeing you do well in NXT UK, and I think it's a shame. Obviously, the pandemic has kind of set wrestling back a bit, but with it coming back soon, and hopefully with the tapings, it's going to be great to see you and everyone else back in NXT UK again. Because obviously we're British, we miss it. I feel like it's one of the proudest things we've got in Britain when it comes to wrestling. And I feel like NXT UK gets a hard time sometimes because it was seen as like the indie killer or something, signing up all the names. But I feel like it's brought more attention to British wrestling in a positive than anything else because WWE has put enough trust in this country, to actually base themselves here and make a promotion and a training facility. And I just think it's a positive for British wrestling in general. I mean, is that how you see it too?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like just the fact that obviously all of us that are in the roster are able to like make a living out of it and make a good living because it's WWE. Like being able to learn from them, like it is your dream, right? As a kid, that's the dream, like being in WWE. And when they tell you you can go to WWE, but you're like 1 hour away from it, which is my case, like 1 hour flight away from it. It's like, what are you telling me? Like, am I able to be in WWE but still live in Madrid? That's wild.
Yeah, it's
I,
crazy.
I can't even imagine like for people from here, right? Like, if I could do that in my country, like if I could wrestle every city in my country and being in WWE, like in Madrid, in Barcelona, and stuff like that, I would be like so blown away, both as a fan and as a performer, right? Like, it just you have to kind of feel proud about it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And like I said, it's a great place to base it in London. It's pretty central. You're only an hour away, like you said. So for people in Germany and everywhere else in Europe, it's not that far. So I see NXT UK more as like NXT Europe, even though it's based here. I like to think it's a hub for all of European wrestling to thrive, not just British wrestling, really.
Yeah, but
'Cause
that's very good, right? Like that's how
yeah,
also World of Sport used to be. Like
absolutely, yeah.
you have like the best British talent, but then why wouldn't you have like the best European talent, like people from
Yeah.
Hungary and stuff like that? You want that, so you have it.
I mean, regardless of what people say, we are technically part of Europe. So,
that's what I love about NXT UK, because it's like you said, there's yourself from Spain. You know, you've got Ilya Dragunov, you've got Imperium, so it is very European, and I think it is that almost a throwback to the World of Sport era. Obviously, you have Johnny Satan involved and people like that, and it's a big throwback. I mean, do you watch much World of Sport? Even influenced by any of them guys as well back from them days? Obviously, Johnny Satan, as you mentioned, but any others?
Right now, I'm very much watching only World of Sport. So yeah, a lot of people. I have some people that I find amazing. Like it's just like, how didn't I know this guy, right? Like how hadn't like I studied this guy before, and they're just like class performers that I had never had heard about it. Like people like Tybor, people like Alan Sargent, and then obviously when you watch the work of people like Rollerball Rocco, Finlay, Jim Breaks, those guys were just like, what is this? Like this is it's just surreal. Like it's in the 70s and it's wrestling that could still hold up today. It's just amazing.
So ahead of the time, right? Like when it comes to what they were doing, it, like you said, it wouldn't be out of place nowadays. And you find a lot of wrestlers nowadays looking back at these World of Sport matches and taking parts of it because it still works. But people haven't done it for so long, it almost seems new. So,
I feel like if someone does that now, they feel like, oh, this is new, this is innovative.
Yeah.
No, this is what people were doing like back in the 70s. That's amazing. Like watching Marty Jones versus Rocco, that's like pretty much any match right now in the indies. Like it's just that level.
Yeah, that's it. So fast paced and technical, and you know, like I said, it wouldn't be out of place. And I find that really cool because as much as wrestling has progressed, in the same way, it's kind of stayed the same in how consistently good the in-ring action's been. Like you get more flips nowadays, you get more like high spots, so to speak, but you still had the high spots back in World of Sport days. They were just something different.
I feel like the best thing, in my opinion, like for World of Sport, is that like the rules. It just feels like a real contest. You know what I mean? Like it feels like a sport. Just having those 10 counts just makes everything make more sense, and like the rounds and everything, the public warnings, it's just things that add a lot to the thing, right? Like to the final product of the match, which right now we don't have in the indies. That's probably why you have so many high spots.
Yeah, that's very true. Even some major promotions, I won't name any, but like it's almost like the rules are secondary to the match. Whereas if you enforce the rules, it makes the match much more important. Personally, like if you went like in tag team matches, I hate it when people don't hold the tag rope. Hold the tag rope because that's why it's there. Like,
Definitely.
so it's just the little details, and it's good that you see that too, and you're studying all the matches because I think it's really important for a wrestler to do that, to go back and look at what worked before and see how you can do that too.
Yeah, and I've always enjoyed it so much. Like it's just a part of my job that I love. Like just watching wrestling and trying to like understand little details. Like whenever I watch Brett, any match I watch of him, I always learn something new. Like, wow, I never realized how he moved after that leapfrog, for example. It's just one thing that I learned today. That's amazing.
Well, it's I mean, like I said, we're just looking forward to seeing you in the future. And usually, what I do is ask where we can find somebody coming up in the future. I'm guessing with you, it's the answer is NXT UK. Do you have an idea of when that might be, or is it just open to?
I know as much as you guys do. Like what I know is just like whenever it's possible to do it safely for all of us, that will happen, right? Like I don't know how it will be or when it will be, but I know it will happen. So
I mean, as much as we want to see wrestling back, like you said, safety first. We can, if we have to go without wrestling here for another few months to a year, whatever. As long as it comes back safe and the people wrestling are safe, that's all that matters.
That's the most important thing.
We've got millions of hours to watch if we need it, so we're good.
$9.99, man. $9.99.
£9.99. WWE.
There we go. There's your plug.
We're
There's
Netflix
your
shows now, Jamie. But yeah, it's been great talking to you. It'd be really cool to catch up with you when wrestling does return to the UK, when everything's back up and running. Let's find out where you're going to be. NXT UK, obviously, but give us an update on what's going on, and it'd be really cool to talk to you again down the line.
Yeah,
we'll
perfect.
get that Daniel Bryan match sorted out for you as well. We want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, great talking to you. And we've been Ringsiders Wrestling, fans at Ringsiders Pod, and we'll see you again next time.